Here, He has given you everything you ask for. Because we ask Allah for a lot of things. Somebody asks for more money, somebody asks for better health, and sometimes they get it and sometimes they don't get it. But Allah does say He'll give you everything you need. So the understanding of the word here has to be clear. He has given you everything you could have needed. The understanding of the word here. Then He says, وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تُحْصُوهَا. And if you were to count the favor of Allah, you wouldn't be able to fully encircle it. Al-ihsa is another word for adad. Adad means to count something. But Allah used two different words for counting in this ayah. Allah said, in ta'uddu. He didn't say, in tuhsu ni'matallahi la tuhsuha. He said, in ta'uddu ni'matallahi la tuhsuha. So in English translation, you can say, if you count the favor of Allah, you won't count it. So it sounds like you said the word count twice. But actually, He used two different words for counting. And so let's, for a moment, understand what that would mean. What's something we can learn from that? Literally counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's adad. That's adda. So in ta'uddu ni'mat Allah, if you were to count the favor of Allah, and Allah mentions ni'mah, the singular, ni'mah of Allah, one ni'mah. He didn't say ni'am Allah. Ni'am Allah would mean all the favors of Allah. But counting one favor of Allah is easy. One favor of Allah. I can see that's one favor of Allah. I just counted it. But Allah didn't say, in ta'uddu ni'mat Allahi lan ta'udduha, or la ta'udduha. He said, la tuhsuha. Al-ihsa means husat were actually little pebbles. And the Arabs, in the old way of counting, they used to count something and they put a pebble in the bottle. Then they put another pebble in the bottle. And they put another pebble in the bottle. Later on, people put marbles in the bottle, right? And nowadays in the banks, you have, for example, cash machines that count the cash quickly, right? This was the ancient form of counting. But you put something inside and now it's contained. Now it's fully contained, right? This was a record keeping. Ihsa was a kind of record keeping. What Allah is saying is that even if you can count the favor of Allah, one favor, I'm giving the example of seeing, you cannot fully record it. You cannot take full account of it. How many ways did seeing benefit me today? How many ways did seeing benefit me yesterday? Many of you drive. When you're driving your car, if seeing was taken away for 10 seconds, if seeing was taken away in the right moment, what would happen? Well, if you're a surgeon and you're performing heart surgery, and for just a few seconds, the seeing gets taken away. Or you're a pilot landing a plane and the seeing gets taken away. Just imagine for a moment, can we actually fully account for how much seeing protects us from moment to moment to moment, and how many blessings come our way just from this one favor of Allah? Allah is saying you're not able to fully appreciate even one single favor of Allah. Human beings are full of wrongdoing and they are extremely ungrateful. Kafar, extremely ungrateful, and kafar from sigat al-fa'al also means they keep being ungrateful over and over and over again. So I remind myself in this khutbah, I remind you of a favor, but 2 hours from now I'll forget again. And I'll become ungrateful again. It's possible. And then I'll be reminded, I'll become ungrateful again. So the ingratitude of human beings keeps happening over and over and over again. Now it's amazing that the ayat of the Quran, Allah says, "Uhkimat ayatuhu." The ayat of His book, the revelations of the Quran, are stitched together. So what did Allah stitch this to? He stitched this ayah. Immediately after this ayah is the ayah about Ibrahim alayhi salam, towards the end of Surah Ibrahim. Now Ibrahim alayhi salam, we get two major parts of his life in the Quran. Ibrahim alayhi salam lived to a very old age, but in the Quran, either you learn about him when he was very young, or you learn about him when he was very old. Those are the two times you learn about Ibrahim alayhi salam in the Quran. You don't learn much about the middle life. You only learn about the early life and the very late life. And the late life of, this is going to be about the late life of Ibrahim alayhi salam. And Ibrahim alayhi salam is going to look back at all the favors Allah did for him, and he's going to make a dua to Allah. And that's the ayah that we're learning about now. So Allah is telling us, you can't even appreciate a single favor, but then He takes us to the example of someone who was very grateful to Allah who was shakir to Allah, shakiran li an'umihi, kama qala subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? He was grateful to Allah through his entire life. So let's see what he does. Allah says, وَإِذْ قَالَ إِبْرَاهِيمُ رَبِّ اجْعَلْ هَذَا الْبَلَدَ آمِنًا. This is, of course, he's very old now. The Kaaba has already been built. The sacrifice story is already done. All of that's over. This is at the very end of the life of Ibrahim alayhi salam. And the Kaaba is already the Mecca is already populated, people are already there, the house is established, everything is done. Now, he says, my master, my Rabb, make this city peaceful. Now that the city has started, Ya Allah, I beg you to make this a place that remains safe. رب اجعل هذا البلد آمنا واجنبني وبني أن نعبد الأصنام. And keep me and my children from worshipping idols. Now I told you all the tests of Ibrahim alayhi salam have already finished. All the tests are over. And after the final test was over, we learn in Surah Al-Baqarah, وَإِذِ ابْتَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ رَبُّهُ بِكَلِمَاتٍ فَأَتَمَّهُنَّ قَالَ إِنِّي جَاعِلُكَ لِلنَّاسِ إِمَامًا. When he finished all of his tests, Allah said, I am making you a leader over all nations. All nations. Actually, the Jews claim Ibrahim alayhi salam. The Christians claim Ibrahim alayhi salam. The Muslims claim Ibrahim alayhi salam. They call themselves Abrahamic faiths. Billions of people on the planet have a connection. The wrong connection or the right connection is not what I'm discussing. But they feel they have a connection to who? Ibrahim alayhi salam. And Ibrahim alayhi salam is being told before all of this, I am making you a leader for all humanity. All of humanity. This is after he passed all his tests. What's remarkable is immediately after that, he said, that's great, millions and billions of people, all of humanity, trillions of people even through the generations, all of humanity. What about my children? He didn't ask about millions of people. He just asked about his children, dhurriyati. We learned something about Ibrahim alayhi salam that even Rasulullah was told, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He was told, فَاتَّبِعْ مِلَّةَ إِبْرَاهِيمَ حَنِيفًا. You, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, follow the religion of Ibrahim alayhi salam. He's a qudwa, he's even an example for Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam himself. It's his father. What is the lesson that we're learning from Ibrahim alayhi salam here? If you're really concerned about all of humanity, because now if he's the leader of all of humanity, he's responsible in some way over all of humanity. The only real way to fulfill that responsibility is with your own sons, your own daughters. The first step is وَمِن ذُرِّيَّتِي. After being made the leader, after Mecca is established, after the Kaaba is finished, he's built the Kaaba, he's coming to Allah, and he's telling Allah, Ya Allah, make this city peaceful. Make this city peaceful is for the entire population, not only his children, everybody who lives in Mecca. But then he says, وَجْنُبْنِي وَبَنِيَّ أَن نَعْبُدَ الْأَصْنَامِ. Keep me and my children from worshipping idols. Who did he bring up again? His kids. He didn't bring up the entire world. He didn't bring up the entire ummah. He brought up his kids. The reason I wanted to emphasize this today in this khutbah, in these brief minutes that we have together, is that Allah has emphasized the importance of the role of the father in these ayahs. Ibrahim alayhi salam, in the ultimate position of leadership, in that ultimate position, he understands that the first step of that leadership is that I am a father. I have children. I have to protect my kids. And I have to make dua for my kids. And those kids, Ibrahim and Ishaq, both of them are prophets. Both of them are prophets. And one of them, Ismail alayhi salam, helping him build the Kaaba. And we already know the dua, رَبَّنَا تَقَبَّلْ مِنَّا. We already know that dua. And now he's talking about his kids, and then their kids, and their kids, and their kids. And he's saying, Ya Allah, keep me and my children from falling into the worship of idols. Ibrahim alayhi salam believes that Islam is not guaranteed for his kids. And even for their kids, and their kids, and their kids. And it could be that 5 generations from now, there might be people that are no longer Muslim from his children's children's children. He understands this. So his dua at the end of his life At the end of his life, these are the last. In a sense, these are the last quotes of Ibrahim alayhi salam in the Quran. He's saying, "Protect me and my kids from the worship of idols." This teaches us what kind of relationship I'm supposed to have with my sons and my daughters. What is the role of every father? We are the religion of Ibrahim alayhi salam. We have a responsibility. You know, in Western society, they have this certain kind of propaganda and a certain kind of media propaganda in liberal societies. And the media propaganda is the mother is the carer, she's the provider, she's the responsible one, and the father is the idiot. The father just wants to play. The father doesn't know how to change a diaper. The father doesn't know how to feed the baby. The father doesn't know what to do. The father doesn't know when the baby's crying what to do. The father forgets if he fed the baby or not. Or forgot to pick the kid up from school. In TV shows and cartoons and documentaries and podcasts and social media posts, etc., etc. Fathers are irresponsible, losers. Fathers are useless. Mothers do everything. And I'm not giving you this khutbah to attack mothers. Because every time we have this idea, we have this sickness. It's a disease. If I talk about children, somebody says, what about parents? If I talk about parents, somebody says, you didn't talk about children. If I talk about fathers, somebody says, hey, why didn't you talk about mothers? You see, you can never talk about anything. Nowadays, you cannot talk about anything without making it weaker and talking about the opposite. Everybody here knows the right and the responsibility and the role and the maqam, the station, the high station of the mother in Islam. We know the station of the mother in the Quran. So there's no reason to become insecure when I'm talking about the importance of the father. Oh, you're saying the father is important? That must mean the mother is nothing to you? You're saying mothers are nothing? This insecurity needs to stop. This is a sickness. This is a sickness. We have to get away from that sickness. Because we have to deal with one subject and we have to be able to do justice to it without apologizing. Without saying, no. I mean, fathers are great, but let's give a few minutes to our mothers too. Mothers will get plenty of time. And the problem is when I one day talk about mothers, then fathers will come, you make it sound like fathers are nothing. This is insecurity. And this keeps us from pursuing the truth in an honest way. This is, they have a word for this in English. It's called whataboutism. Whataboutism. So I talk about one thing, but what about the other thing? But what about the other thing? But what about the other thing? If you keep doing that, you will never be able to talk about anything. Because you keep having to talk about something else. You can't ever focus on one thing. So this khutbah is dedicated just to fathers. And if somebody, one day this will be on social media, or even after the khutbah, somebody will come with a what about. So I'm answering you before you come to me. I'm letting you know ahead of time. So now, because fathers are portrayed as idiots, and they just want to play, and they're not responsible, it's being made to look like fathers are not fit to be parents. The actual parent is the mother. And that's why in Western societies and liberal societies, not just in Europe or America or Canada or Australia, but even in many Muslim countries, if there's ever a divorce or a problem in the marriage, etc., most of the time custody goes to the mother. Because the mother is a better parent, better fit to be a parent. The father is not a suitable parent for the child. What does the Quran have to say about all of this? What does the Sharia have to say about all of this? What does the Prophet ﷺ teach us about all of this? What does the example of Ibrahim alayhi salam teach us? What does the example of Luqman teach us in the Quran? Or does the example of Yaqub teach us in the Quran? Or the example of Nuh alayhi salam? Or the examples keep going of fathers with difficult sons, fathers with obedient sons, fathers with a challenge with some of their sons. All kinds of fatherhood in the Quran, constantly. You know why? Because the role of the mother is to nurture and to protect and to care and to love. But the role of the father is to teach. The role of the father is to give strength. The role of the father is to build character. That's the role of the role of the father is to prepare their child for the world that's coming. The role of this father, Ibrahim alayhi salam, is to make sure every generation is going to lead the way that Ibrahim alayhi salam was given responsibility of leadership. The role of the father is to produce the next leader, is to create the next leader. When a baby's crying, because there's good thing that the baby was crying for a little bit. It was good demonstration. Allah reward the father for bringing the baby. When a baby's crying, and what does a mother do? She panics, she gets up, she loves the child, nurtures the child, comforts the child. I have a 2-year-old son, for example, he's a little over 2 years old. When he cries, I don't run to him and say, "Oh, why are you crying?" I sit down next to him. What happened? Did you get hurt? Where did you get hurt? Completely calm, no hugs, nothing yet. Where did you get hurt? Okay, show me where you got hurt. Over here. Okay, let me touch it. You feel better? Okay, now help me fix this. And then he gets busy. He gets busy. Why? Because I'm teaching him, instead of living in your pain and celebrating your pain, and then I'm going to cry with you. Oh my God, my baby got hurt. What's going to happen if I train him to constantly celebrate his pain? Then by the time he's 16 years old, he's going to be a TikToker celebrating his pain on TikTok and talking about how he's never going to heal. Right? I have to raise a man. I have to let him know crying will happen, pain will happen, and here's how you will overcome it, and here's how you will deal with it. And that's the role of a father. That's the role of a father. Has to do this. He has to build his son. He has to build his daughter for a difficult world. Ibrahim alayhi salam's legacy is teaching us this. He understands that without that, if men don't raise the next generation, we have this idea, men's job is to do the work. I drive the Uber, I drive the taxi, I work in the store, I work in the factory, I work in the office. You take care of the child. Some men have that sickness. That's also a sickness. In the Quran, the most important teacher in the life of your son and in the life of the daughter, the most important teacher is the father. You're the murabbi, you're the imam, you're the sheikh, you're the personal coach, you're the fitness trainer, you're the therapist, you're all of it. All is you. And if you're not ready to do that, then you're not ready to be a father. And if you're already a father, then you better step up. It's too late. You can't cry about it and outsource that job. No teacher will have the kind of influence the father will have. And when the father does not do his job, or the father is prevented from doing his job, then the effect will not just come on the child, the effect will come on the entire next generation. The effect will be on the entire world. The entire world. This is not a small thing. This changes everything about a society. This affects politics. This affects the economy. This affects social structure. In a generation or two, this will affect the kinds of laws that will be passed, because the children that were raised by fathers will have a different kind of moral code. And the children that didn't have fathers will have a different kind of moral code. They didn't have that figure, will have a different kind of moral code. Now we're living in a time, because we are in times that are very far from the values of Islam. And some people have this idea, I know my time is almost up, so I want to be as concise as possible. Some people have this idea that the best times were ancient times. So we'll talk about the Sahaba radiallahu anhu ajma'in and how amazing they were. And we only talk about that to remind ourselves how bad we are. So those people were really good, therefore we are really bad. So all the good people are dead, and now we have the leftovers, right? And so Islam had its golden age, and now it has the past expiration date, going on, right? This is a sickness too. Our deen came to correct and to make better every generation, every nation, every century, every time, every place. Our deen is relevant always. It never expired. Its values never expired. The problem is that we think that we have to become some special kind of superhuman to be able to do what Islam says. Islam's teachings are very straightforward. They're very easy to apply, and especially with fatherhood, they're very straightforward and easy to apply. You and I, as fathers, have to be able to have a direct role in the way we, we educate our kids, especially with their religion, especially with their akhlaq. How are they supposed to be with elders? How are they supposed to handle when they get into a fight? What's supposed to happen when they get in trouble at school? What's supposed to happen when they lie? What's supposed to, and our solution is not, but some of you were raised by fathers who beat you. So you say, well, that's tarbiyah of Islam, right? So Islam is the, right? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam has far more authority over the Sahaba than a father has over a son. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam is sami'na wa ta'na ala kulli hal. No matter what, you absolutely obey Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And even when the Sahaba disappointed Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, even when they failed him on the battlefield in Uhud, for example, even when he almost got killed because of their mistake, does he beat the Sahaba? Does he insult or yell at the Sahaba? Does he raise his voice at the Sahaba? Does he do that? And now we think that the Islamic father is the yelling father, the beating father. That's tarbiyah. I don't know what sunnah you've been studying. I don't know what Quran that is, but it's not this one. It's not this book, and it's not that prophet. That's you. That's your problem, and you made that somebody else. So you made it a child's problem. It has nothing to do with this world. There's supposed to be toughness. There's supposed to be discipline, but there's a way to create that discipline without breaking a child. When you're yelling at a child like they're an adult, why did you break that glass? Why did you touch it? I told you not to eat that. When you're yelling at them like that. You're yelling at them like that. As if you expect from them the behavior of an adult. That's what you expect from them. What did you teach that child? You taught them, I better not break that glass because Baba's going to get very angry. The reason is, Baba will get very angry. When that child is 18 years old and he's taller than you, and he's bigger, you've been going to the gym, he's bigger than you, and you've been eating samosas and baklava, and he breaks a glass, and you say, hey, why did you break that glass? He says, don't talk to me like that. Astaghfirullah al-azim. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. I gotta talk to the sheikh. I have rebellious children. No. The only reason you gave him to obey you was to fear you. That was the only reason he didn't obey you because you're worthy of obedience. The only thing that made you worthy of obedience was fear. It wasn't if you break a glass, my son, you broke that glass, now we're going to clean it together. And here's why this was a bad thing. You could get hurt, and this can happen, and you explain it, and you walk him through it. Astaghfirullah al-azim. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. I gotta talk to the sheikh. I have rebellious children. No. The only reason you gave him to obey you was to fear you. That was the only reason he didn't obey you because you're worthy of obedience. The only thing that made you worthy of obedience was fear. It wasn't if you break a glass, my son, you broke that glass, now we're going to clean it together. And here's why this was a bad thing. You could get hurt, and this can happen, and you explain it, and you walk him through it, and you punish him, but punish him with love and discipline, not yelling and screaming. And by the way, we have this principle in Islam, لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يحب لأخيه ما يحب لنفسه. You know this principle. Is it for one person, 2%, or everybody? It's for everybody. You don't love for anyone else, but you don't love for yourself. Would you like to be talked to like that? If you don't love that for yourself, how do you love that for your child? Are these not principles of our religion? كيف يذهب بعقولكم بهذا التصرف? Where does our mind go? أي دين هذا? So what happens when you teach a child when they make a mistake with wisdom, with education, with correction? but without this fear and yelling and screaming, because if that's the way that things get done, then when that child becomes 20, 21, 22 years old, and one day he gets married and his wife breaks a glass, the only way he knows how to correct that situation, you see what he's done? And he might do that in front of a 1-year-old daughter and traumatize that child. You created sickness in the mind and evil for generations because you don't know how to control your temperament. You don't know how to be. This is serious. We have to go back to the wisdom that was taught to us, the beauty that was taught to us. I'll leave you with these thoughts. You have, on one case, you have Yusuf alayhi salam, who sees a dream, and he doesn't go to his mother. He doesn't go to his mother. He goes to his father. Ya abati inni ra'aytu ahada ashara kawkaban. How many kids would rather go to dad and talk to dad than talk to mom whenever something happens? And if your kids don't want to do that, then you need to create that as a father. Look at Luqman radiallahu anhu in the Quran. He doesn't say to his son, قال لقمان لابنه وهو يعظه لا تشرك بالله. He said, يا بني لا تشرك بالله. My little son. يعني هذا التعبير يشير إلى الحب. إلى غاية الحب. He lovingly talks to his son and says, my son, I love you so much, don't do shirk. The Quran, nothing in the Quran is zaid, nothing is extra. So when the father is telling his son, my little son, I love you, and then he teaches him deen, then love becomes part of the education of Islam for a father. That's هذا هو القرآن. كلمة الله العليا. We have to go back and read this book with the book, understand what it is to be a father, and what Allah is teaching us. Everything Allah mentioned in the Quran, especially in the role of fathers. We have to, as a father, I have to look at that and say, there's a reason Allah said this. There's a reason Allah said this. There's a reason Allah is telling me something. Allah is telling me something. And so we have to become the real kinds of fathers. When we say, where's the Ummah today? Where's the Salahuddin today? And where's the Umar bin Khattab of today? And how come we're so weak? And we ask these questions. One of the clear answers to that question is the fathers have been missing. Because when the fathers play their role, then the right kinds of sons and daughters are raised. Then you know what kinds of sons and daughters are raised? Ya bunayya aqim as-salah wa'mur bil ma'ruf wanha 'anil munkar wasbir 'ala ma asabak. If the entire ummah was an ummah of amr bil ma'ruf, nahi 'anil munkar, as-sabr 'ala ma asabahum, then we would be a different ummah today. We would completely different ummah. All from what? What a father is giving to the child. May Allah Azza wa Jal make us the right generation of fathers. May Allah Azza wa Jal help us impart the right kind of wisdom and guidance, not just for ourselves, but also especially our children. And may Allah Azza wa Jal allow all of the husbands here, the fathers here, to have the kind of cooperation with their wives, with the mothers of these children, so both of them can give their best to this next generation, so that we can actually become a people that deserve to be in positions of leadership. بارك الله لي ولكم في القرآن الحكيم ونفعني وإياكم بالآيات والذكر الحكيم.
Almost 300,000 souls have already been gifted a Bayyana TV sponsorship, and the impact has been immense. But over 50,000 eager students who can't afford it are still waiting to begin their journey. You can help. Visit bayyana.com/gift to share the gift of the Quran. So, coming up in today's episode,
Sahaba understood that Allah has given business activity a special status because of this ayah. The earth is a prison. The earth is a dark place. The Quran, before talking about the story of how we came to the earth, described a place where we can live well.
What if your rizq, your work, and your spending were all acts of worship? You see, the Quran doesn't separate the spiritual from the material. It teaches us that how we earn and spend and build all matters to Allah. Recently in Malaysia, Ustad Nu'man Ali Khan delivered an important lecture on the Quran and the global economy. This is now a 3-part series in which he explores how the Quran frames money, trade, and global economics. Last week in part 1, Ustad showed how provision and business are part of the Quran's divine guidance.
Allah made the earth an expanse for you so you can pursue pathways and highways and find new avenues and explore the world.
Today, in part two, he'll explain why Islam promotes a business mindset, entrepreneurship, and conscious consumption for economic stability.
Because in this ayah, Allah put those who pursue halal revenues equal to those who fight in the path of Allah.
Next week, in part three, he'll look at the Quran's blueprint for avoiding poverty, addiction, crime, and corruption, why Muslims must come together to build economic power.
If you don't establish alliance among you, there will be huge fitna in the world. There will be corruption in the world. The world will be put to test. Allah says when believers don't become what? There's going to be fitna.
Now, if you'd like a clear, concise summary of this entire series, we've put together a free ebook for you. Download it now at bayina.com/global economy.
وَلَقَدْ مَكَّنَّاكُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ وَجَعَلْنَا لَكُمْ فِيهَا مَعَايِشَ قَلِيلًا مَا تَشْكُرُونَ. I talked about this in the story night before. Briefly, I'll make mention of it. The story of Adam and Eve in the Bible is one in which Adam and Eve make a mistake, and as a result, they are cursed, and they are sent to this cursed planet. And they live in a damned curse. And the only thing that will lift the curse is the blood of Jesus. That's what the Christians turned this into. So Adam is the reason we're born in sin, original sin. The earth has suffering, the earth has death, the earth has disease, the earth has the breaking of the back, toil and labor. The women suffer during pregnancy because of the original sin. That's the Bible's narrative. The Quran's narrative is Allah put you on this earth and He made things in it so to ensure you can live well. So little you show gratitude, and after saying that, then He begins the story of Adam. So while the Christian worldview, the biblical worldview was the earth is a prison. The earth is a dark place. The Quran, before talking about the story of how we came to the earth, described a place where we can live well and where we should be grateful. Our worldview of even why we are here is completely different. It's actually the entire world has been made a place where we should find things to be grateful to Allah for. Now we're getting to the juicy parts slowly. Allah says, Ibrahim alayhi salam's dua, right? Allah put him in this place that has no economic resources, Makkah, at the time. No oil yet, right? This is a valley that doesn't grow anything. Is there heavy rain in the region? Is there a suitable climate in the region? Are there natural resources in the region? No. It's an economic, like if it was a piece of real estate and a real estate agent came and showed you this property before Ibrahim alayhi salam, you'd say, I need a new agent. Right? Allah made him establish the house of Allah there, right? What did He ask for once He built the Kaaba? He said, make this place a peaceful place and provide its people all kinds of fruit. وَارْزُقْ أَهْلَهُ مِنَ الثَّمَرَاتِ. So, and in a summary, He asked for safety and He asked for fruit. What did I say about fruit? Investment, business, income, revenue generation. Give people a means by which they can live well. They can live well. Ibrahim alayhi salam, who left the world, went into a desert, was thrown into a fire, ready to slaughter his son for the sake of Allah, no interest in dunya, and what is he asking for his future generation? Give them safety and give them prosperity. Safety and prosperity. Any elections that happen anywhere in the world, any government that's having any problems in the world, any party that wants to come into power, you know the two things they talk about? National security, economy. Two things on any ticket. This one's weak on security. This one's strong on the economy. This one, you're the reason the economy went bad. You're the reason the economy went. When I was president, things were great. We're going to secure the border. We're going to build a wall. We're going to, two things: safety and prosperity. Ibrahim alayhi salam is asking for those two things, and those two things are actually interdependent. What if you have a country that has a lot of security? Let's say North Korea has a lot of security, but they don't have a flourishing what? Economy. You can have a situation where you have a lot of security, but you don't have an economy. It's not sustainable. What if you have a situation where you have a flourishing economy, but then the security starts declining? When the security starts declining, your business investment is not safe, your money is no longer safe, your assets are no longer safe, your home is no longer safe. It doesn't become a good. So there's a lot of business opportunity, but watch out because you don't know who's gonna. You can. There are places in the world where property is cheap, you can make a lot of money, but if you fly out, by the time you come back, somebody else is living in your house. What are you gonna do about it? Right? There's there's prosperity without security. That doesn't work. There's security without prosperity. That doesn't work. To have the best of both is to have a nation that is secured on both safety and prosperity. Now, safety comes from Allah in one sense. Like, أَلَمْ تَرَ كَيْفَ فَعَلَ رَبُّكَ بِأَصْحَابِ الْفِيلِ. Right? The army of elephants came. Who protected Makkah from that? It's Allah Azza wa Jal. But the prosperity was human activity, interestingly. The prosperity was the Meccans used to go to Syria and the Meccans used to go to Yemen and they used to buy product and sell product in Yemen, come back to Mecca, buy and sell there, take remaining also, go to Syria and buy and sell the Yemeni products over there. And Syria was a connection to Europe and Yemen was a connection to Africa and the rest of Africa. And there was basically the pipeline, there was an economic pipeline and Mecca was this, when you go on a highway and there's a rest stop, Makkah was the rest stop in between the highway, right? And that's how they were making their money. رحلة الشتاء والصيف. There's a surah dedicated to the economic pipeline that was Makkah. Just like there's a surah dedicated to the safety of Makkah, ألم ترى كيف فعل ربك بأصحاب الفيل. There's a surah dedicated to the economic prosperity of Makkah, لإلاف قريش إلافهم رحلة الشتاء والصيف. Right? So these are not side concepts in the Quran, they're actually central concepts in the Quran. Now, by the way, again, a confused notion that some people have that if you're a believer, this is, in a sense, it's Protestant and it's the prosperity gospel, but some Muslims got impacted by it. If you make a lot of dua, then you will have no risk problems. Allah will provide everything for you, right? Allah will solve all your issues. You'll have children, even twins. You wanted twins, Allah will give you those. And you will have a great job and you'll have a business and all of that. No, 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 no. Allah will take and Allah will give as He wishes. And Allah will provide to the disbeliever too. Even the disbeliever, I will let him enjoy for a while, a little bit too. Right? And for us, Allah told us, وَاللَّهُ يَبْسُطُ الرِّزْقَ لِمَنْ يَشَاءُ وَيَقْدِرُ لَهُ. Allah expands the rizq for whoever He wants, and Allah contracts the rizq for whoever He wants. This is up to Allah. This is not, believers will have rizq and disbelievers will not have rizq. That's not the case. That's just not the case. So we don't think along these terms. This is actually a confused concept that even in Surah Al-Fajr, when a person has good times, they say, Rabbi akraman, right? When Allah provides him rizq and opens the doors, he says, Allah has done so much. Allah has honored me. And when qadara alayhi rizqahu, when Allah contracts the rizq for him, times get tough, there's a recession, the business goes down a little bit. Rabbi ahanan. Oh no, my Rabb humiliated me. Allah is not happy with me anymore because look, my business failed. Or I lost my stock value or whatever else, right? Rabbi ahanan. This is kalla. No. That's not Allah crushes that kind of thinking. So we don't have that kind of mentality. Now, if you've been paying attention, it seems that in between the line, embedded in the text of the Quran is this idea that human beings are supposed to travel, trade, pursue rizq, make the most of resources. It's actually a business message. Go and do business, go and build, go and expand, go and explore, go and learn, right? That's the idea. So what happens when you have a society that promotes business? Like I have a chance to, I spent a lot of my adult life in the United States, and I've spent a good amount of my life, or more and more, I've spent some time in Europe. And Europe has, some socialist policies. For example, I've spent a decent amount of time in Denmark, right? Nice country, and I spent time in the United States. And there's a different DNA in America as opposed to Denmark. In America, there's a hustle culture. It has many the hyper capitalism has many disadvantages. But one of the advantages is you can have a crazy idea and you can experiment with it, and you can fail, and you can try another one, and another one, and another one, because it's business friendly. It's business friendly. Some crazy lady can come along and say, "Yeah, I was doing medical school at Harvard, but I decided to make a cupcake store." And 3 years from now, she has 100 cupcake shops across the United States, and it's a multi-$100 million business. You could become a cupcake millionaire in America out of your kitchen, right? People could do that. People could start giant tech firms in their basement, right? Because they created a business-friendly venture, culture. There's a lot of energy in Northern California, in San Francisco, and Bay Area, etc. The tech startups are just constantly experimenting and putting things out before VC capitalists, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so there's that kind of culture, and even people that have a job in America, right? People get a degree, they get a job, but when they have a job, nobody just wants to keep a job. They're like, I have a job, but I'm doing some investing, I'm working on a business, I'm working on a project. There's always something going on because their ultimate dream is not to be the employee. The ultimate dream is to be the employer. There's a mentality, I want to be an employer. I want to be my own boss. There's that mentality. I go to Denmark, and it's a stable country, but there's also we just want to keep things exactly as they are. We just, I just, this, we don't even want a new building here. There's a protest because there's a new building coming. We want to preserve society, and it's a socialist society. So young people, their ultimate dream is to get a degree and get a job. And once they have a job, their ultimate dream is to retire early so they can travel and come back and live off the government's 60% of your salary for the rest of your life. I'm okay. This is fine. This is good enough for me. So, and by the way, even if I don't get a great job, the government's going to subsidize my education. They're going to subsidize my rent. They're going to subsidize my monthly expenses, etc. So I'll be okay. So there's no hustle. There's no drive to build something, to do something more, etc., etc. Right? Now it has its advantages because it's always the same. It's predictable, right? But it's also created an interesting depression in the society. There's a very interesting depression in that society. It's very stable, but it's also very dull. It's lifeless. It's almost lifeless, right? And you could tell from the food. Right? And you'll notice in some of these countries where they don't promote like the entrepreneurial spirit, when they don't promote that, you'll find that it affects other parts of their culture. They don't have much of a sense of humor. They don't have much of a sense of adventure. They don't have much of a sense of exploration. Like there's a dullness in that society. I could crack a joke in Denmark and people would be like, I just want to leave. Okay. What happens in business promoting societies? You get higher entrepreneurship, which creates more jobs, which broadens the middle class. And as it broadens the middle class, more and more competition happens. And when more competition happens, to beat the competition, you have to create more innovation. You have to invent new things. You have to find gaps and creative solutions. And as you're building these businesses and more jobs, the country, because there's higher income, is collecting more taxes. And now that there's more taxes, better highways can be built, better infrastructure can be built, better electricity grids can be built, better water supply can be built, better hospitals can be built, et cetera, et cetera. And as that grows, other people see an opportunity and they want to pour money into that country because now this is a business-friendly environment. Dubai is an interesting example of that, right? They branded themselves as a business-friendly place, and so foreign investment pours in from all over the place. Same thing in the United States for a while. I know Trump's trying to stop it, but it is what it is, right? And then partnerships with other nations start happening, and as a result of innovation growing, businesses growing, entrepreneurship growing, jobs growing, competition growing. In order to be competitive, you have to have a better education. You have to have better skills. So universities pop up more, and those universities have to provide better education because in order to keep up, you have to keep upscaling yourself. So now an entire society is development is happening. You want to do the development, right? That's what happens in societies like these. Now, Let's come back to Islam for a moment. Surah Al-Muzammil. This is the last comment on this section. There's several chapters I want to discuss with you today. This is the last comment on this section. Does the Quran promote a business mindset, an entrepreneurial spirit? Right?